Wait. Hey, loves. What's going on? How's life? Happy Monday. We have a beautiful goddess in the house, Donna. Let's bring her on. Hey, Donna.
Hey, Jen, how are you?
I am good. I'm trying to figure this whole thing out myself too.
Me
Hey.
too.
Oh my goodness. So how's life? Thank you for coming on tonight, love.
Thank you for having me. Life is good. It's busy. Busy's good because I'm good when I'm busy. So
Yes.
it's just been, busy days, busy nights, that kind of a thing. But a lot going on right now. A lot of shifts, a lot of changes, and it's
Yes.
all good stuff. Today was a long, busy day, and I'm like, okay, now I can just relax and chat.
Ah. So, we have a comment already. Let's see who's on. Hey, Kelly. Nice to see you, hear you, see you. All right. So, Donna,
Yes.
tell us your story. Tell us how you became the beautiful goddess that you are today.
Thank you. I don't know. From since I was a child, I knew that I could sense spirit energy on the other side. But it frightened me as a child because it was always death. It was always people dying, people when they're gonna die, when they're gonna be sick, and I felt like there's nothing I can do about it. So what's the point in me knowing? So I really wanted to block it instead of embrace it, and I did for a very long time. And then I realized as I got older, it was a gift and it was something I shouldn't be blocking. But I kind of had to, go through life, learn my lessons, have my children, raise my children.
Of course.
Yeah. And then at one point, I decided I always had the gift. It was always there. I could always sense stuff and feel stuff and walk into somebody's home and I would hear their grandmother chattering in the background
Yeah.
like 20 years ago. And then I decided to go to meditation, to a meditation group that my sister was actually going to. She's like, I think you would really like this. And I almost didn't go because it was facilitated by one of my patients' parents. And I was like, I don't know if this crosses boundaries with being a nurse, with going to this. I said, I'm going to go anyway. And it was as if the floodgates opened that night. It was as if all of a sudden everything I had turned off turned right back on and was like, guess what? You're not turning this off again. And from that very moment, the very first moment I shut my eyes to meditate, when I opened them, I saw an owl, and it was as if I was seeing through the owl's eyes. And I was like, what the hell is this? I was like, what is going on here? I was like, people are going to think I'm crazy if I say this. And I realized that was like the beginning part of my journey into the dark, to find the light. So
Yeah.
it was, nocturnal animal, knowledge seeker, messenger from the dead. And I started realizing it's time. And that's what began my journey. And also with the meditating, with the disorder that I have, the illness, so to speak, I needed to focus on wellness. And the meditating really started as that as well. And I realized this is a tool. This is something that's going to help me to navigate my illness because I know I'm going to have it for the rest of my life. And how do I do it without traditional modern medicine? Being a nurse, we want tangible facts. We
Right,
want
right.
empiric evidence of why this works. So to just all of a sudden start meditating and being like, wow, I can see through my blind eye, you know,
Well,
like all
explain the illness that you have.
okay. So I was about 33 and I woke up one night and I was like, oh, I can't see. And it was in my left eye. It was as if somebody just covered my eye and was like, guess what? You can't see anymore. And I went to the doctor, just complaining of some certain things. And he said, oh, I'm pretty sure you have MS, but you're not presenting completely like MS. So I took a long journey of misdiagnoses before I finally got diagnosed. It took about 8 years. And I got diagnosed with something called neuromyelitis optica. And what that is it's our body produces an antibody that we're not supposed to have, and it attacks my optic nerve and my spine. So the way most people get diagnosed is exactly how I did. You end up overnight blind or paralyzed.
Wow.
And I woke up and I had no vision in my left eye. And they said, well, the good news is you're probably not going to have anything happen to your right eye. Well, that wasn't true either. So over time, I know I have to have medication the rest of my life, and I have to have my immune system suppressed. And I truly think, and people think I'm crazy when I say this, but I think you'll understand it. I think I had to get sick to understand suffering and to understand trauma and to understand life isn't all about titles, and it's not all about, accomplishments. It's about how you live your life. And for me, my mantra was always make a difference. And I said, you know what? They gave me a 5-year life expectancy when I got diagnosed. And I was like, nope. I was like, uh-uh. And I said, in those 5 years, I have to make a difference. And I realized that's when I started meditating. And I said, I have to focus on my wellness, not my illness.
Yes, I love
Uh,
that.
and that's what did it. And within a year's time, they came out with a medication that helped stabilize. It doesn't cure it, but it helps to stabilize it in, for a period of time. And I decided that I'm going to focus on my wellness and not let it become all of me. Like when I was a psych nurse, if you have somebody that has schizophrenia, they say I'm schizophrenic. When you have diabetes, I'm a diabetic. Well, it's a part of you. Why did it just redefine you? And
Right.
for with the disorder I have, I say, oh, I have an MO, but it's just a part of me. It's not all of me. And that's where, when I started doing the work I do, I wanted to work on that with people too, that recognizing an illness is a part of you. It's not all of you. And you can't give all your energy to it or it wins and it's
Yeah.
going to take you down. And that was a huge deciding factor for me. So I wanted to work on helping people process grief, change, illness, death, um, and where to go from there. So that was the start of my journey. Yeah.
That's amazing. And
Thank
look
you.
at you now. Look at you now. And how long ago was that?
So when I finally got diagnosed, that was about 8 years ago, and I stayed stable for pretty long. And then a year and a half ago, not COVID. COVID didn't do it to me. It was my disorder. I had a bad attack about a year and a half ago, and I had to switch medicines. But everything happens, for a reason and the way it's supposed to happen. And I said I have to slow down and I have to make some decisions and really, really prioritize my health and boundaries. A big thing with boundaries, like how to,
Yeah.
when you have somebody messaging you going, my grandmother died yesterday, I need to see you tomorrow. And I'm in the hospital, like, I'm just laying here doing nothing. No, no.
Yeah.
So it was a big lesson for myself that I still wasn't focusing enough on my own wellness, and I was still putting other people's needs first. And
Yeah.
it taught me and it woke me up to, you really got to set boundaries when you use a lot of your energy to help other people, because it does drain you. And I learned the hard way. So I still learn the hard way because I'm stubborn.
Yeah. Well,
But
because it's part of you. It's part of who we are as healers and givers, and
mhm,
we got to fill ourselves up first,
very much so.
right?
We drain those cups all the time. We
Yeah.
forget to fill them.
Yeah.
But it's like
And
you gotta,
receive too. Make sure, we have to make sure that we ask for help and receive
exactly.
also. Yeah.
So, and that's why I love a lot of the work I do. It's so therapeutic to me as well. It's not just when I was doing home care, I found that some people would say to me, I did home care with terminally ill children, and people said, how could you do that? And I said, you don't understand. If this was my child, I would want to know they had a nurse that was there for the child and the family and not the paycheck. And for me, it was therapeutic because my son was going through something and I wanted him to have that same kind of nurse. So for me, it was like, if you have to be comfortable with giving and receiving. You can't
Yes.
give and give and give and give and not accept and receive. And that was a big lesson for me when I was doing the home care I was doing, and it opened my eyes up to grief and really, whew, what it does.
Huge.
And I
Yeah.
started something with grief and death work, and here I am.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I'm very drawn. You have a group on Facebook. What's it called?
Life and death conversations.
Yes, I
Woo!
love it.
People
I
were
actually became I am certified of an end of life doula.
I love that.
And so I am so in love with this conversation
Yes.
and so in love with the miracle of dying. It was everybody put fear to it, but it's such a beautiful, peaceful thing to do, a miracle, just like giving birth, right?
It's very, like, when you talk about being a doula, most people know, like, doula, midwife, and they think baby's being born. And it's just the idea of, when you're born into this world, we celebrate, we announce you, we have showers, we adore you with gifts. When somebody's dying, it's like, shh,
Yeah, yeah,
quiet. Don't talk about it. Don't celebrate. Don't do any of that. And I was like, why do we do that? Why are we so hush hush? We should be celebrating their life path, and we should be honoring their life. And you know what? Maybe you didn't have a good relationship with that person. Maybe they weren't the nicest person in the world, but that's the time to make those repairs. That's the time to make peace with it before the person is gone, before you don't have that moment anymore. And with the life and death conversation group, people were messaging me like, yeah, this sounds morbid to me. And I was like, just go in and try it. I go, what I'm trying to do is normalize death conversations.
yeah,
Have them. I have them when somebody messages me and goes, I need an appointment with you to connect with my mother because I need to apologize.
exactly.
Why are we not doing this before they're gone? And
Exactly.
people are so afraid. Like, I just talked today about the 5 wishes, and nobody knows what the 5 wishes is. Nobody, unless you're a death worker.
Well,
Unless
tell us what the 5 wishes are, love.
So the 5 wishes, most people know what a healthcare proxy is. You go into the hospital, you're having surgery, they're like, who do you want to make medical decisions for you if you can't make a medical decision yourself? You can't consent. Typically, it's a mother, a father, an adult child, a partner, husband, wife, whatnot, whoever your partner is. But this goes way deeper than that. This goes into, let's say you're at the end of your life and you're in a room and somebody comes in and goes, let's rub mineral oil on her, mineral ice, because her bones must be achy. But you can't communicate and you hate the smell of mineral ice. Do you want to be dying and have somebody's rubbing something all over you that you can't stand the smell of? No, these documents, the 5 wishes, have who you want making decisions for you if you cannot. How awake do you want to be? So, in other words, if you have terminal cancer and you're in a lot of pain, some people will say, I want to be knocked out. I don't want to feel pain. Other people will say, get me into a comfortable place where I can still communicate with my loved ones and my family. Then you have a real special group of people that are addicts that are like, I want to leave the world sober. If this person goes comatose, okay, or they go out of the world and somebody goes, well, let's give them some morphine, that person doesn't want morphine if they want to go out of the world sober. But this should be known before they're dying, because you need to help them go out of the world the way they want to honor them. So much of those 5 wishes is how you want to be at the end of your life. Do you need to share something with somebody? Do you need to tell them something? I'm not an I love you person, which is real weird in the spiritual community. But at the end of life, if I go, you know what? I didn't tell people enough that I love them. I need them to know this. Okay. If I want to write letters to loved ones, I might want a stranger to come in and sit down with me and write those letters, because it may be too painful to do it with a loved one, because they might feel, oh, you loved that one more than me. I'm not writing that. So you want somebody to come by it. So these 5 wishes have to do with how you want to die, how you want to live, who you want around you, who's making decisions for you, how much of a pain level do you want to be in or not be in. It talks about clothing, music. My daughter knows my whole symphony of what I want done and what I don't want done. It talks about all these things that people in a room look at each other and go, what should we do? Should we let this one come in and see the person? Should we let anybody visit? Should the dog be in the room, or is the dog irritating them? All these things that when it's too late is when you're asking these questions. So it's all the things that it's really to help honor your loved one's wishes, but it's also for us that we're not sitting there looking at our loved ones that are going, what do we do? What do we do?
Right.
Like
Right.
here, they say hearing is the last sense to go. Talks about that too. What
Yeah.
do you want people in the room doing? Do you want them whispering and talking about you? Or do you want them sharing happy memories while you're at the end of your life so you could transition peacefully? So I always talk about the 5 wishes, and people always go, I'm going to download that off the internet. Actually, put that up today. Has anybody downloaded it yet? And people are like, not yet, not yet. I'm like, do it, like do it and fill it out. So that's a big thing, because like with you did the end of the life doula course. The thing I realized was I really would love to do that, but I have to get treatments every month, and I get really sick from the treatments. So
Right.
what happens if I'm getting a treatment? I can't rip the IV out of my port and go, one of my clients is dying, I gotta go. I
Right.
do that. So I said, but how can I make people have these conversations? How can we talk about it? And I said, that life and death page. But also, I want to start doing what they call death cafes, where people come together and we sit down and have coffee and tea and stuff to drink and eat, and just have it like a social conversation where we can start talking about all these things to take fear and stigma away from dying.
Yeah. It's so important. It's so important because, like I said, it's just such a beautiful thing. We are all temporary, every single one of us, you know?
Very true.
Yeah.
And it's a hard topic. Like both my parents are in their 80s, and it's tough to talk to that generation. They're very concrete in what they were taught, and how cancer is still whispered. You still, oh, cancer, it's still like that. But I have to say I've made my parents like so much more receptive to talking about these things. But I said to my dad, I'm like, you don't have to be in a suit. You can wear your
Right.
jeans and suspenders that you love to
Yeah.
wear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, you can. So
Yeah.
things where I feel like it's our job to do these things and make that change that needs to be made. But if somebody says, I want to be in that suit, then you honor that too. That, that's
Exactly.
the choice. If they want that suit, more power to you. We're going to put you in that suit.
Yeah.
Even home funerals, they're trying to get back to home funerals now too, so that it's not a cold, sterile time frame environment. You can make, peace with your loved ones, but so many people are grossed out by it, and so many people are told, oh, it goes against Department of Health regulations. No, it doesn't.
No.
It does not. And in New York, here's where they get you. In
Yeah.
New York, you have to have a funeral director come to the home, and they have to be present through the whole funeral home, through the whole home funeral. So they get to charge a nice little bit of money to stay.
Yes, of course, of course.
Mhm.
But it's a beautiful thing because it's what we've learned, all of us, generations. I mean, what did we do back in the day when people died? There's so many different traditions.
Very much so. I
you
mean,
know?
my father would talk about like how his grandmother was laid out on a table in their living room. That's
Right,
the norm. And until the war, when they started saying, you know what, the soldiers that died in the war, in the Civil War, when they had to be transported back, they said, well, how do we get them back? What do we do? And that's when they started embalming. And they said we can preserve the body, and they would bring it, and they started funeral homes, and they were no longer being held in people's homes. And then over generations, home funerals became the like abnormal thing to do. We're told
right.
younger generations are like, ew, like no, no. But that was all we knew. That was all we knew until somebody said, oh, we can embalm those bodies, preserve them, and put them in a funeral home or a hospital. It's the same thing as hospitals were not where people used to die.
That's right. And they're and it's actually not even them in that body, right?
Oh, no, not at that point.
Yes, let's talk about that.
That That's a big thing where I'm so grateful that I'm connected to so many people from different cultures, because of all the different belief systems that different cultures have about the soul, the spirit, the body. But this is our vehicle. This is what holds our soul. This is what holds our spirit, our anima, whatever you want to call it. But this is just the vehicle. And what I always try to explain to people is that, once that life force has left us, this is just, we're not here anymore. This body, this just holds us. And a lot of people will say, oh, when I go to the funeral and the body is there, or when I go to the cemetery, and I'm like, they're not in the cemetery. They'll go with you to the
Right.
cemetery, and that's why you feel them there. But what's there is the remainder of a vessel. That is what's there. And I have been reading, I don't know how many years now I've been reading, I guess 8 years, something like that. I have never, ever once had an energy from the other side say to me, they better go to that cemetery.
Yeah.
Or they because they're with us. They're in the universe. Their energy is everywhere and it goes back to source. But we're so connected to this that we don't know how to separate from it.
Right. Right.
So it's such a big thing like cremation. And I know my niece, my niece had told me, if you get cremated, Aunt Donna, I'm going to disown you. I'm like, what? And she's like, because that's your body. And I'm like, exactly. It's
Yeah.
the packaging. That's all it is. So people are very attached to their bodies and everything that goes with it. But our souls are energy. They're just pure energy. They're not skin and they're not bones. And people get very, very attached to the skin and
Yeah.
bone. And when
Yeah.
I see them on the other side, they'll show me what they look like in life. And quite often they show me the best way they like to look
Of
in life.
course. Yeah.
Yeah. But they'll show me it, and then they'll show me, here I was in my 30s where this is the way I liked how I looked. But
Yeah.
it's always interesting to me because I always say it's like a ball of energy with like 100 little particles. And it can split off into 100 pieces and go and visit 100 people and be in 100% full consciousness with each person. That's why when I'm reading somebody, I could say, well, your mom right now is down in Florida with your brother and she doesn't like the paint, he put in the kitchen. And then
Ah.
she still, and then they call the brother later. Yeah, what do you mean? How could mom have been with me and you at the same time? Because we're thinking mom is still a body, but
Yeah.
mom is back to energy. She's back to what she came from. And
Yeah.
have great difficulty wrapping their heads around that. And I understand it, but because this is all we know. This is us, this is all we know.
Yeah, this is what we've been taught. You have to look this certain way. You have to, you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
weigh a certain way. You have to present yourself. Yeah, no, no.
Yeah. And it's wild to me because, I had somebody say to me, the last tattoo that I got, and they're like, "Well, if it's just your body, why are you wasting all that money on it if it doesn't go to the other side with you?" And it's like, well, while I'm here in this life, it's staying with me,
Yeah, and I actually posted about a tattoo. It's art, it's decoration. We decorate our house. This is our house right
Yeah.
now, right?
I always say that, like, this is my canvas and that's my art.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
And it's just, I think it's one of the really important things, like in the spiritual community. I always laugh because I'm like, I always have like one foot in the physical realm and one foot in the spirit realm, I say.
Mhm.
But I always feel like sometimes I could be the Debbie Downer in the spiritual community because when people are like, everything is wonderful and everything is beautiful and everything is magical, and I'm like, well, I had a murder suicide today case, and I had I had a person that died from cancer. They lost their child, and everybody else is talking about these wonderful,
Right.
beautiful, and I'm like, okay, and here I come in the door talking about death and disease, but then it's like I'm trying to educate people and I'm trying to help people accept that process. Like when I
Well, do you make it beautiful as you're talking about it? Yeah.
It's the idea of, I did a workshop over the weekend with connecting with loved ones and honoring them, and how you don't really need me to do it. You can figure
Right.
out your own
Yeah.
way to do it. And I was showing them that. But what I did was I gave them all messages while I was doing the workshop from their loved ones. And there was a couple there, and this is exactly why I do what I do. So when I had gotten over to this couple, I was picking up a loss. I was explaining different things to them, and I shared with the gentleman, they had lost their daughter. And I had shared with the gentleman things his daughter was saying to him, and how she was putting her hands on his shoulders and rubbing his shoulders. And she wanted him to watch over different medical things within him. And, he was very teary. He said, everything you just told me was what was wrong with my daughter. Everything you just did with me, I rubbed her shoulders. I rubbed her feet.
Wow.
All these things
Woo, chills.
said to me. So when it was just such a touching moment, and when it was done, everybody was, getting ready to leave. I was talking to a couple different people, and he came up to me and he said, I have to let you know. He said, I was having a really bad day today. And he said, and my wife said to me, like, what's wrong? And he's like, it's just one of those days. I'm having a bad day. Their daughter just passed 3 months ago.
Mm.
And he said, but today, he goes, you lifted all this weight off my shoulders. And he said, and you lift grief away from me, where I feel lighter now. He goes, and for the first time, I feel I can start healing. And I just stood there. I was like, because that's why I do it,
Yeah.
because I want people to come out of that acute grief state and to start healing. But the key to it is, I'm not their healer. I leave them the breadcrumbs to learn how to heal themselves. That's why I hate the title healer. I hate it, because for me, it's like, that's saying I need it for my ego to say I'm a healer. And I don't, if other people, they want to use that title, doesn't bother me in the least. But for me, it doesn't work for me, because I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm going to leave you breadcrumbs to get to where you can understand your own healing. And that gentleman looked at me, and I just said to him, I go, I have to thank you. I said, because these are such difficult things to talk about. And I know I might trigger you into a deeper grief when I say that. And he was like, you don't understand. He's like, I didn't even want to come here today. And he's like, my wife made me come. And he goes, and look what happened. And I said, that's why I do it. It's not to tell somebody when they're going to get married. It's not
Right.
to tell somebody what kind of house they're going to live in. It's to help people come out of acute grief to start living again, not just existing, but living. And this man in that moment was like, I could start living again.
Yeah.
That's yeah,
Yay.
that's it right there. I
Yeah.
was like, hey, this is perfect. This is why I did it,
Yeah.
And those are my moments where it's heavy. It weighs so heavy, but it's like, I get it. And people are saying, oh, you have such a gift. I go, oh, it's a curse sometimes. Because of how heavy you have to carry other people's
Yeah.
sorrows
Yeah.
and burdens. But when I take it from them, when they give it to me, I give it back to the universe. You can't hold that. So, yeah,
Well, I say we're all healers. Every single one of us. We heal ourselves. We
exactly.
heal ourselves. Yes.
Exactly. But people know me, but like, oh, you're like my guru. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm like, you're my healer. I'm like, nope, nope, not again. Like, nope, but you're 100%, 1,000% right. We are all our own healers, and
That's right.
we lead lights for other people, that we're, when they see what we go through, like with illness and suffering and trauma, and they see we came out on the other side of it, we're light for other people, that when they're in the dark, that they can find a pathway out. That's why I think people should share their stories. They
Oh,
shouldn't
yeah. That's
should not
why
hide behind them.
yeah.
And I don't
That's
want anybody feeling sorry for me. So I lost my vision in my left eye. What if I go blind in my right eye too? I'm like, that's the best gimmick in the world. A blind psychic? Come on. Come on. So yeah, it's like, you have to have a sense of humor. That's
You
like the
do.
best medicine. But don't feel sorry for me. Like when people say that, I'm like, what do you feel sorry for? I'm like, at least I know what I'm dealing with. A lot of other people don't.
Right.
Um, yeah, but it's a beautiful thing to be able to help people deal with their deepest traumas and help them start to see that light again. That's,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
When I do healings, I always have I do hypnosis and energy healing at the same time. I
Mm-hmm.
call it purple love because I don't like the whole healing thing either. And And then I have them place their hands on themselves at the end.
That's
And
great.
yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, feel the burning in your hands, feel the fire, feel the violet flame,
Mm-hmm.
and then place them on you
And
and
that's so
feel.
empowering.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
instead of them going, well, sunshine put her hands on me and I felt it, they're feeling that power that you connected them to their own power and
yeah,
gift that is for them to be able to say, I actually felt it in my own hands.
yeah.
Awesome.
And then they go home and they could do it all as much as they want, as much as they need
Exactly.
it, right? Yeah.
And they'll come back to us, oh, I don't know if I did this right, or can you
Yeah, of course.
that's
Yeah.
what we're there for. That's exactly why we're here and why we're helping other people in this pathway. And it's I always love when I have the people, and I don't know if you have clients like this too, where they'll hide it from their loved ones that they're seeing you. So
Ah.
where they're like, I'm coming for a session today, but I can't let anybody know because it goes against my family's religious beliefs, or
Oh, wow.
little crazy. And I'm like, so let me get this straight. You could go to your doctor and they can give you opioids and they can give
Right, right, right.
all
Yeah.
these things. But if you come to me and I make you feel better about yourself by giving you different ideas of what you can do at home, that's what you're hiding. But, because it's just the stigma that goes into people that do spiritual work and do energy work, and how it's like hocus pocusy and we're all witches. And it's like, if this is what we have to be and we're all witches, awesome, because we're making the world a better place.
Exactly.
You
But
know?
we all have the ability, which is the funny thing is that because once we start working with them, their abilities start coming out and they're like, whoa, I'm hocus pocus too.
People don't recognize that light within themselves when they're so used to dark. So when you start showing them that light, and that's the duality, that's the balance, because you cannot have light without dark.
Right.
Complement each other. And it's like, you have to have daytime, you have to have nighttime, you have to have up, you have to have down. So people tend to think, oh, people that work in the spiritual community, everything is cotton candy and rainbows. No.
No.
We go through the dark and we face the dark and we embrace the dark so that there is cotton candy and rainbows. But
Right.
but we deal with it on a daily basis because we don't push it away. We try to deal with it, and sometimes we push it away because it's too much, and we deal with it in increments. But I find that a lot of people assume that, when you tell them this is the kind of work that you do, they're just like, oh, you spin around listening to Stevie Nicks, don't you? Like, whole image in their head. And it's like, well, some
You
days,
dance with Stevie.
right? It just, it's so fascinating to me that when you're just trying to encourage people to empower themselves, but you're steering them away from what's expected in
Right.
society. You're looked
Right.
upon as like very
The norm.
questionable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, this should be the norm, that people can learn how to heal themselves, and
Exactly. And
you
you
know,
gotta feel it to heal it. We
you
have
definitely.
Raquel. Did you finish?
Yeah, yeah, I was able to read it.
Okay.
Um, a big part of it is how the whole process went. I find is really important with that. Um, it's not that you can push it away. It's not that the loss goes away. It starts coming back to honoring her and honoring her life. Nothing can make that pain just go away. Time,
Right.
horrible measure, because some people go, well, in a year I was feeling so much better, and other people say 5 years and I'm not feeling better. But it's all about how we embrace death. If we say she was in pain, she's no longer in pain, she's on the other side. Do things that honor your mother, even if it brings tears to your eyes, even if you're bawling your eyes out. If you know that, at Christmas she absolutely loved getting holly flowers or something, or she loved decorating. Do stuff that honors her, instead of when that holiday comes, you go, I can't have hollies because of my mother.
Mm-hmm.
First thing your mother wants you to do is get hollies, to have her there and be present and honor her.
Yes.
That's one of the biggest things. They don't want you not doing those things in life. Like I always say to people, you know, parents and children are like the most horrible losses. And most people will say to honor them, I'm not going to celebrate a holiday. To honor them, I'm not, no, to honor them, you're celebrating their life. You're celebrating the
Yes.
Christmases they gave you. Now, let's say you had a hostile relationship with your parent. That's hard because you can't go, well, I'm honoring all those wonderful Christmases I had as a child if they weren't. But what you can do is honor that if your parent did the most they were capable of doing, maybe that's the only way they knew how to love. And sometimes we can't accept that because it's not the way we needed to be loved. But that may be the only way they knew how to love. We have to meet people where they're at, not where we want them to be.
Right.
The biggest thing I can suggest for you, I think it was Raquel, is that honor her. And it's going to bring tears and it might make you sad, but you're honoring her love. Those tears are love.
Yes, yes.
The best way to go through grief is like love.
And tears are cleansing and healing.
And they're very much so, and cathartic. And, you know, women are allowed to cry. Women are allowed to do that. It's the men that are like, you know, you're not allowed to cry. You got to man up. Women, we're allowed.
Men could cry too. I'm giving
Exactly.
you permission. Cry, men.
Exactly. When I do readings with men and they start crying, the first thing they do is start looking around to like make sure nobody's in the room.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, bawl your eyes out. Go ahead. But honoring them is the first step to it. Just keep talking to them. They hear you. They will
Yes.
around, talk to them. But the one thing I do want to say is this, because this is definitely something that I deal with a lot. When you're first in the early stages of grief, it's very heavy. So think if somebody took cement and poured it over you, it solidifies over you like a rock, like you're encased like a mountain of grief. You have to start doing little things to put cracks in it. You're not just going to blow up like the Hulk and the whole thing goes away. You have to start doing little things. Buying that holly bush at Christmas time, buying her favorite food that she enjoyed, her favorite coffee cup that or teacup that she drank out of it. These little things create cracks in that concrete
I
mountain.
love that.
Little by little, it cracks more and more. There's a saying, it might have been Hemingway, I'm not sure, where you have to have the cracks for the light to get through. So when you're in a solid state of grief in this country, and depending on what your culture is, like I'm Italian Irish, we're supposed to grieve and grieve heavy. Okay.
Right.
So we're taught, don't you smile, don't you listen to music, don't you celebrate
Right.
today. But then you're fertilizing your grief. You're marinating in your grief. Your family does not want you to do that. Your loved ones don't want you to do that. Start with little tiny cracks. Literally visualize yourself with a little tiny hammer, making little cracks that let the light come through. And then you'll start to get signs and signals from your loved one because
Yeah.
come through in that light. But a lot of people say, I just feel paralyzed with grief. And it's not inaccurate. You do get paralyzed with grief, but you have to start making these little cracks in that. If you can visualize that mountain of concrete over you, and then little tiny like hammers. One of my clients messaged me much. She goes, forget hammers. I put little pieces of dynamite in mine.
Nice. Blow it up. A little
Blowing it up.
sparkle.
I
I
was marinate in it.
Yeah, and they're not lost. They're still
No.
with you. They're still with you in spirit and talk to them and have conversations with them. Ask them for help. That's why they're still here,
And
is to help
they're
you.
there to guide you. When they get to the other side, in the early part of the transition to the other side. Now, depending on who you speak to, we all have different experiences with how we connect. Okay. That's a big thing, how we connect. So in other words, when I go and I have a client with somebody, um, I tend to connect right away to spirit energy on the other side. Other psychics or mediums or these types of workers will tell you it takes 3 months before you can communicate with them. That's not my experience, but it
Mm,
doesn't mean the other person is wrong. Their experience is it takes
right,
3 months. But in
right.
that period, people are so afraid for their loved ones that they're lost, that they're not going to find the light, that they're in some kind of limbo world.
Mhm.
I always try to say to people, like, this is hell. We live in
Yes, I
this is
said
hell,
this.
okay? This, this is the every other realm we face our demons, our
Yeah.
tragedies, traumas. Uh,
Traumas. Yeah.
we are taught by certain belief systems that we go to hell if we do certain things wrong. No, we go to hell here. Hell is here. So when
Yeah.
we pass the other side, when I have a parent that comes to me and says, "Is my child in hell because they committed suicide?" No, your child was embraced with love and acceptance. This
Mm.
was hell for them. And when
Yes.
they get to the other side, they're embraced with love, acceptance, understanding, but they do have to reflect on what brought them there. They do
Right.
need to reflect, and they do need to see what their family members are going through afterwards so they understand how much they were loved. So it's like not to punish them, it's for them to understand you were so loved. Look at the grief, look at the mourning, and how are we going to handle this differently next time? How are we going to make this different? But people are very concerned about their loved ones being lost on the other side, in the dark on the other side. Are they in hell? Are they in limbo? No, they're in a spiritual realm that's full of love and understanding. And there are lessons to be learned there, though. They don't just
Right.
get
But
rewarded.
they're at peace. They're not,
Exactly. Exactly.
in pain anymore. They're not
Exactly.
struggling,
I know a couple of comments when I was talking that I wasn't able
Yeah.
to.
Jackie said, honoring someone is so important. And
So
then, yeah, Joanne,
spousal loss,
yeah,
child.
she lost her spouse. So did Jackie. And Kelly, her nephew passed away at 18. Yeah.
It's so incredibly hard with child loss.
Yeah.
That is, I deal with that a lot. I'm actually dealing with it right now, where one of my clients that was a young man recently died. I'm connected to many members of his family. It is one of the hardest losses you can ever experience because it's a life cut short, most people would say. They didn't get to experience. You're welcome. They didn't get to see this person's life played out and fulfilled. But what I have learned so often is, and I always use it, I'll always say, okay, so when you get to this side, they hand you this book. This is your life. Like, the book that I have right here is The Journey Within. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's this idea of when they get to the other side, that was their book, that was their journey. And even if they died at 4 years old, 18 years old, 30 years old, 80 years old, that was their journey. We are the ones that are left behind with that feeling of loss and suffering. Now, a lot of it's dependent on how they died, how we handle it. Suicide, horrible. Murder, horrible. Illness, horrible. But it's the idea of with children, they've lived their lifetime. This is all they needed.
Right.
Maybe what about a child that comes into the world severely disabled and they are here for say 10 years, but they're severely disabled the entire time? And I always get asked the question, why did God not just take them? Why did God bring them into their parents' life to have this severe disability where their sole focus was on this child who had no quality of life, nothing? And I'm like, have you ever worked with a person like that? Have you
Hmm.
ever had the experience? I said, let me tell you what it's like, because I've done it. I've done
Right.
it many times. I said, that child will bring hope and love to
Mhm.
so many people. Maybe they came into this world to be silent, to be in a bed, for other people to be healed, to come in and work with them and just have pure love, unconditional love for this child that maybe was going to heal part of them. Every worker that goes in there may be going through something horrible. And when they go in to work with that child looks at them and maybe can't say a word, but the recognition is in their eyes and it feels a part of that nurse, that respiratory therapist, that OT, that PT person, a doctor, whomever it might be. But they always serve a purpose. They always do. And when they go out of this world, they don't have to come back again. It's almost like they volunteered to come in
Yes,
to
yes,
heal other
yes.
people. And it's not a punishment, but what you're left behind with is family members that are changed forever, that
Mhm.
go into deep mourning. But a lot of those parents that lose those children, they now go into helping other people that lose their children, how to deal with that, how to get through it. But it's a loss you can never ever take away. I
Yeah.
think a child loss is the worst. And miscarriages, stillborn. Some people say you didn't even know the child. How could you still be upset? That was a life that was growing inside
Of
of.
course.
And
Yeah.
if you're a father, and they'll go, you didn't even get to experience it. That was still his child.
It was in his heart. It's in his
Yeah.
soul. Yeah.
But children, I mean, I'll cry during my readings sometimes because I can get real emotional with some of them. And I will feel the people's emotions and I have to release them myself. But the children are always, they're ascended. When they get to the other side, they have ascended.
Yeah.
And they were a gift, they were a blessing. But when they pass, I think because of how deep that love was, we don't experience unconditional love easily in this life, but those children, they give it to us. And when you have a child that says the everyday ordinary child, that they got hit by a car, they developed cancer, going through that tragedy and that trauma again makes you experience unconditional love.
Yeah.
It serves a purpose, and it's almost like that child came into this world and looked at the script and went, I'm going to die so that person can experience unconditional love. And they said, and I'm going to do the best I can the whole time I'm here. But when that day comes, I know it's going to hurt them, but I'm going to let them know what unconditional love feels like because they're going to feel it for that child and they need it to feel. And it's harsh sounding to think your child might have actually decided before coming into this realm, I'm going to do this. And my parent is going to go through this horrible loss. But in that moment, that is unconditional love. And they
Yeah.
need feel. So it sometimes doesn't make rhyme or reason, and it sometimes is confusing. And I have three children, and there is no comfort to the idea of if I lost one of them. But
Right.
I know from what I do, there is life after this, and there was life before this, and I will be with them again and again and again because I've been with them before, before, and before.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
animals too. For people that don't have, you know,
Yes.
fur babies, that can be very traumatizing as well.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Animals, that's the one thing I get asked a lot. Them, they only have one lifetime. So I've only seen it where if you had a dog, a cat, a horse, or whatever in this lifetime, they pass, they are on the other side waiting for you because that's it. This is it for them. And I love when I have a person where I connect them and I'm like, oh, when your father went over, his childhood dog greeted him. And they're like, oh my God, he loved that dog. So they just, and they just wait very happily for them.
Yeah, I love that. I actually had a neighbor reach out to me. They left a note in my mailbox. Can you paint my father's cat that passed away on my
Yeah,
fence?
I remember seeing that. It was very
Yes, so I did
Mhm.
that.
I
Yes.
love that, and that's awesome. That's so healing.
Yeah.
Arthur,
My healing art. My healing art. I have
so
one not very long left with me.
so you honor that time, you cherish that time, whether this is a person, an animal, a baby, whatever it might be, you honor that time with them.
Yeah.
I know I had a dog that on Halloween, it'll be 2 years ago, that she was at the end of her life, and at the end you give them whatever they want. You spoil them,
Yes, of
just love
course.
up as much as you can. It's traumatizing, and even with adults we do this where we beg and plead with them, like cancer. I just had this whole conversation with somebody. You get a diagnosis and they say with treatment you could be here another year and a half, 2 years, but it's going to be a rough year and a half or two.
Right,
And
yeah.
family members plead with you, don't give up, don't quit, don't give in. And then you say, well, you're going to get really sick from the treatment. You're going to need a lot of meds to counteract that illness. But you're going, no, 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 I'm not ready to let go of them. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just do it for me. That's hard because what ends up happening is they will do it for you and they will be so
Exactly.
sick that there's no quality. There's only length of life left, and that's it. And I talk a lot about this. So if you have a person, a loved one, or you have a fur baby, just honor what the animal, you got to kind of just go with your flow with that one. But with people, if somebody looks you in the eye and they have tears in their eyes and like, I'm going to choose not to do treatment. And if there is no time left for them, if there is no cure, if there's nothing plausible,
Right.
honor that. And it hurts like hell. It hurts like
Of
hell because
course.
you know
Yeah.
you're in
Because you're
limited,
attached to them. Yeah.
but that's the greatest act of love to
Yeah.
say it's the most selfless
Set
thing
them
you can do
free.
and let them go because then they don't have guilt of having to hold on because they're holding
Right.
on for us. But cherish that time you have with them. Talk to them. I interviewed both my parents. I sat down with my parents and I interviewed them and I asked them questions like you would never dream of asking your parents because I said when the day comes where they're not here anymore, I want to be able to share this. I want my children to know these things. I want little tiny details of their life that was important to them to be shared after they're gone. Like I asked my father, like, who was your first love? And my mother was like, excuse me? You know, I told them like, he was his third grade teacher. He had the biggest
Yeah.
smile on his face.
I love it.
And it was like, and he's like, can you connect me with her? I was like, she is on the other side, Dad. So it's this thing of, I love the idea of interviewing your parents because they may not remember what they ate an hour ago, but they can tell you in fifth grade what they got from a teacher as a gift or when they got in trouble because they stole some candy from the store.
Yeah.
They love to share this because it gives their life value as opposed to what medicine do you need? Oh my God, you're being nasty to me. It gives their
Mhm.
life value and purpose, and they like to share their experiences.
I love it. I help people pass while I'm sleeping. So I have a sunshine hotline and I get, ring
Mm.
ring.
Wow.
And I I don't know if I've told this story before, but a, a parents contacted me in my dreams. I can't find Joshua. I can't find Joshua. Can you come help me, sunshine? So I went and he was hiding in the closet. And I went in the closet with him and I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "They won't let me go." And I said, "All right, I'm
Yeah,
going to help you. I'm going
exactly.
to help you." So I took him out to his parents and I said, "Look, we found him. We're going to go for a ride in the sunshine car. Say goodbye, say goodbye." And we went in that car and we were driving up and down the hills, laughing and singing. And he turned to me and I said, "Are you ready?" And he said, "I'm ready." And he just went, you
And
know?
that's the beauty of it because you took the fear out
Yeah,
of and the ability to say, I don't want to make my parents sad, but I'm ready to
yeah,
go.
yeah,
And that's uh that's very shamanic in some ways that you can do that, but also like the biblical term an intercessor that
mm,
are you are there at a time where people need like a bridge to passing
yeah,
and dignity in passing and respect in passing and again where some people say that's a gift and it's a curse because it means you have a lot of responsibility at the time of death,
yeah,
but you are a person that's chosen because something in your energy, something in your aura assist people in saying, "Oh, it's safe to go. It's okay."
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
and that's the beauty of it, where other people look at us and go, "That is like what? No, I don't want that. I don't want to do that." But
yeah.
we're kind of chosen to do those things, and we're like, "I'm going to help you, and I'll help you pass, and I'll help you go." And there's the light. You can go to it. Don't be afraid. But the parents are. It's love because they attachment, and who
Of
wants
course, yeah.
to go? I understand that completely, but in that moment, that is the most unselfish, unconditional love thing you could do is let them go. And with a
Let
child,
them go. Yeah,
whoo, that's heartbreaking, but you don't want them to suffer any.
no.
Yeah.
And they are if they're going through all that, you know?
I
I
mean,
had a woman, I've never dogs sat I mean, I have 3 dogs. I'm surrounded by dogs, and I said, "You know what? I'm always paying people to babysit my dogs. I'm gonna dog sit." And then all of a sudden, there was this person that needed a dog sitter on Facebook, and I
hmm
clicked on her, and I said, "I'll babysit your dog." And she
Mhm.
goes, "You don't even know me." I said, "There's a reason why I'm clicking on you." I said,
Yes.
"Come." And she pulls up. It was Easter Sunday, and she pulls up, and I just felt something. So I went outside, and he was laying in the back of the car, and I was like, "Oh my goodness." I said, I didn't even say it. I just looked at her, and she goes, "I'm gonna bring him inside." I said, "Okay." So we laid on the kitchen floor with him, and I, just put my hands over him, and I knew, I found the spot. He started, the legs started shaking,
Yeah.
and I just looked at her, and she was like, "It's time." I go, "Yeah, it's time." And I said, "And he's waiting for you to say it's time."
Let them go. Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. Animals are so incredibly instinctive that way,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they know, and it's tough, but it's the greatest act of love that you can do is to let go and
Yeah.
to make their transition easier. And you were where you needed to be at that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
You
And
knew.
and we both knew it. She's a Reiki and healer
Mhm.
too. So
Yeah.
I said, "Bring him home." I said, "Do Reiki on him. Tell him you're good, that
Mhm.
you want him to be pain-free and safe and home, and that you're ready." And she did. She did that, and then
Great.
she walked out of the room, and she heard him take his last breath, you know?
He died with love. He passed with
Yeah,
love. That
yeah.
what better could that be than that? And it's Hardy. Hey, um,
Hey.
so it, Hardy was early in my path too. When I first started, Hardy was there. But yeah, it's just you end up where you're supposed to be, even if you don't understand it, and even if
Yeah,
you're like,
just
God,
trust.
I was here for a tragedy. Why was I there? And it all makes sense later. The dots all connect at some point or another, and sometimes we're just drawn to people where we're just like drawn, and it's like, what is this? And then you get there, like, oh, that's what this is.
That's why, yeah, that's why.
Uh, and sometimes we're drawn to people that rub us completely the wrong way, but it's to learn a lesson. It's to
Exactly.
face that lesson, and it's like, thank you for presenting in my life because I needed to work on that lesson and I didn't want to, and you got in my face, and I have to thank you because now I learned it.
Yeah. I
So,
call them my yogas. I'm
oh,
like,
so
"They are
true.
my yoga."
So it's like, I look back now and I'm like, thank God I learned those lessons because I would have kept repeating them if I didn't. So
Exactly,
yeah, and you
exactly.
gotta thank those people sometimes.
I
Definitely.
am grateful for every single one of them that have come into my life
Me
because it made us who we are today, right?
and it's a conversation I remember having with one of my sisters once, and that famous question of if you could go back in time and you could change one thing in your life, and I said I would change nothing. And she was,
Right.
oh my gosh, like the stuff you have gone through, and she's like, all the issues and the health, and I said nothing. I said because any little change in that could completely affect where I am now. And I said all the stuff I went through, even the horrible stuff that I had gone through, I said it made me who I am today, and if
Yeah.
any of it would have changed, I wouldn't be who I am today. So, you don't, if you were abused or anything like that, you're like, thank you for the abuse. No, you say, thank you for the day I woke up and I was strong enough to get away from that abuse.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't thank the abuser. You say, thank you for letting me learn the lesson of I had to recognize my self worth and my value. And that was part of that lesson. So
Yeah.
it's something where people go, how could you not want to change that? Because that made me who I am today. And I helped other people after that. And it made me a much stronger person. If people go, well, I'd rather just stay weak and not strong. I'm like, no, the weak person, it's not weak when you're being abused. I said, but you have to come out of that. You have to
Yeah.
learn that lesson and help other women and men afterwards. But
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
part of who we are and it's part of our path.
Woo! I just felt that. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because that's what we're here for. We're here to nourish and inspire everybody and ourselves,
Yeah.
right? And when we walk through that fire and pull somebody through it, or that needs the
Mhm.
help too. It's an
Yeah.
amazing thing. I wouldn't change a thing either. I was abused by 6 different people,
Mm-hmm.
physically, mentally, and sexually. And
Yep.
I turned it around and I'm freaking sunshine warrior,
That's exactly.
because, and I would never change anything.
Mhm.
Never.
And it's such a powerful thing to empower yourself. Like on my arm in the last year, I decided to finally, ink it up, and I said, but
Yeah.
it
Ooh,
all has a purpose. I said, but like the top of my arm it's a Greek goddess, and it says flow into life. And
okay.
then I have Kali, who is the Hindu goddess that's all about destroying and conquering. So you flow into life, and then you have to face your demons, and you have to face your obstacles. And then on the bottom, I actually have the Hermit, which is the tarot card, and you empower yourself when you face the darkness. That to me is the life's journey, and you
Yeah.
keep repeating it. But people were like, how are you thankful for those Kali moments, those you know
Right.
challenges? And I'm like, because that's what brings us full circle. And for me, what I went through in the past is now me helping other people to realize you can get through that, and you can empower yourself. If you keep trying to push it down, oh, it's gonna come back at you.
It's always going to come back
Yeah.
at you. You got to feel it to heal it.
Exactly. So for me, it's like I love Kali for that reason, but
Yeah.
she destroys. People like, oh, Ganesh, the remover of obstacles, him as well. But I have Ganesh on my shirt. So it's just the idea of we have to face these things when we're ready. Sometimes you're not ready. When you're
Right.
ready to put up the fight and go through it, you'll be victorious. But it's a long journey, and it's a long process, and it's not, like we said earlier, it's not cotton candy and rainbows, and it's
Right.
it's painful, but it's so empowering at the end of the day.
And it's so important that you do it, and not live in this comfortable zone, because
Hmm.
that's not living if you're just living in fear of not doing what you want to do.
It's stagnancy. It's when
Yeah.
you stay in your comfort zone, you're stagnant. It's like
Yeah.
you have to do things every once in a while that pull you out of your comfort zone. I mean, how I'm 52 now, and I'm doing things now that I would have probably done when I was much younger. But it's like I'm doing it now because I'm like I'm not afraid to face these things and start new things. I'm a lifelong learner. I will
Yeah.
go end of my days learning and being a student. Reiki, yes, I took Reiki to master level training, but I don't even like calling myself a Reiki master
Yeah,
because
I don't either.
it's like you have to keep practicing it. You keep doing,
Uh,
and I'm not some guru that practiced Reiki for the last 80 years. So for me,
right.
I'm always a student of it, and I had a really good teacher. I went through 3 different Reiki masters until I got to the one at the end that was like, "Oh, you're gonna blend shamanic practice with it." I'm like, "Yes, can I do that?" "Yes, you can." I was like, "Whoa, finally!" And that was so empowering that I could take shamanic practices that. If anybody's worked with Walter Crow, I worked a lot with Walter Crow. Wonderful work with a shamanic practitioner, and then I found Dave Bonessi, who also studied with Walter as well. And I took all the other stuff I had learned with Reiki and I blended it. Don't ever let somebody tell you what your practice can or cannot be. Because to me, it's like I have a whole medicine bag of practices and
Yeah, yeah.
experiences. And I worked with people, instructors, trainers that taught me you are who you are. It's like if I have a skin infection and they give me an antibiotic for it, like a cream, and then somebody else has the same one, we both need medicine, but we might need 2 different medicines for it.
Right.
It's like everybody might use a different medicine to treat the same exact illness. And I think energy work is the same way. We have our own tool bags, our own medicine kits, and don't ever let someone tell you doing it the wrong, do it that way. I was fortunate enough to work with people that really encouraged me to like spread my wings and fly. And what happened was when I started to fly, it became my own journey where I went
Yes.
away from my teachers and said, now I have to do a lot of my own work to keep
Your
going.
yeah. Your own modality. That's what I say. I have my own. Do you do Reiki? I'm like, no. I said I'm a Reiki master, but I have my own modality.
And
Yeah.
we use different ways. And I'll have a session with somebody, and all of a sudden, it could be 2 years, and all of a sudden, I'm like, I need to do Reiki with them.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I need to pull runes for you. Or, we need to go. One of my friends, Lisa, we went to a park out east. I'm like, we need to connect with your brother, but we have to drive 45 minutes away to go there to connect with your brother. And we did it. We just both had an open afternoon. I don't have that luxury anymore to do that, but we were able to go to the water and go through a park and have experience him full hand on there. And it was like, to be able to do that is such a gift, and not have somebody tell you, you can't do that.
Right,
That's my
right.
practice. I'm going to do everything I feel I need to do with my.
That's right. That's right. And it's a gift given to us, it's a gift. And just flowing with it is such an amazing thing.
So
Such
much.
an
And it's
amazing
like,
thing.
that's the biggest things that bothers me is when people go, you can't do that. You can't blend, Reiki with other spiritual practices. Yes, you can.
Yeah,
Yes,
you can.
unless
Yeah,
you're in some kind of lineage where you're doing straight pure, like, Japanese Reiki, where you're in Japan or in Hawaii and that's what you're doing. But most of us are not doing that. Most of us are doing a very different version of what Reiki was started out as. And
right.
it was a very private, secret, practice where you didn't see those symbols. Nobody got to see the shokare. Nobody saw that on a t-shirt. It was not there. But I just think people need to really empower themselves and say, this is my practice. And if I want to pray to Saint Anthony and the Blessed Mother and Ganesh, and I want to talk to Yahweh, and I'm going to talk to Muhammad, do what you want to do. Because you know what? It all goes back to the same thing with different faces.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know what? You're doing what pleases you. You're doing what is happening with your client. And it's not about them. It's about the person who is there for help.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's just such a wonderful experience to be able to just help people to, you know, to get to that place. And I say, sometimes we do have to check our egos. We do have to say it feels really good to help people, and sometimes your ego needs that like, good job. Sometimes we check our egos with saying, you know, I need to help people. I want to help people for a living, but is it because we need to be needed? And is it an ego thing sometimes?
Right, right.
You know what? If it is, it is. But you're still helping people at the end of the day. But I'm always aware of keeping the ego in check with that too, though.
But that's like we said in the beginning, we have to help ourselves first, fill ourselves up first, and
Very.
then help,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
Don't
So
be people pleasing,
now
right?
the boundaries come in, and
Yeah, that's where the boundaries come
and
in.
when you do this for a living, when you first start, you bend over backwards to accommodate everybody because you're like, well, I'm just starting and I'm trying to build up a clientele. And I have to, if they say to me, can you read me Sunday night at midnight? Yes, I can.
Ah!
You're doing everything you can. And then all of a sudden, when you start to get a steady clientele and you're in the flow and everything's going well, and somebody calls you and goes, can you read me Sunday at midnight? You're like, no, I'm in bed.
Yeah,
Point of, once you're established, once you feel like you're on 2 feet, you have to really honor yourself and what you need. And
right.
you can't help anybody if your cup is empty. You have to keep it at least halfway full, and if not full. But I remember in the beginning, and I think almost anybody, when you first start a business or a career path, we have to pay bills. We
I
have to keep our lights on. Food,
thank you for
table,
saying this. Yeah.
because people will go, you were given a gift from God. Why are you charging for it? And I'm like, well, your surgeon was given a gift from God. Is he doing it for free? you know? So
Well,
it's like,
I was actually brought that up. I think it was yesterday.
mm-hmm.
Was it yesterday? What is today? Monday?
Today's Monday.
I said, you know, I have a Facebook group, and I
Mm-hmm.
do readings. I, pull cards almost every night.
Yes.
And I donate so much of my time. And people, I'll just do like a $20, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing a Zoom thing, $20.
Yeah.
And I said, I am such a I donate so much time. So I am big into the donating, but I also said, consider, are you getting your nails done? Like, how much do you pay to get your nails done? We are certified. We went through all these classes. We paid
Yeah.
for this, we pay for these cards that we're reading for you, So we give you loves, and it's just energy. It's love. Money is love energy. You're just respecting us, and that's it.
Most people that I have come in contact with that work within the spiritual community, energy workers, whatnot, no matter what title you are,
Right.
all of us give back in some way.
Oh
I
my goodness. Yes.
5 years, I had a meditation group that I ran prior to COVID, and it was always free. The only time I charged was if I brought in somebody to do a workshop. Like I brought Phoenix in
Right.
to do stuff with nutrition. I brought Walter in to do shaman like type of practices. All different people came in. Those times we did charge, but we always kept it reasonable. But this is their time. This is their service. This is their practice, and we would all put together, say, if there was 15 people there, and you try to keep it to a minimum, even if it's $10 or $30, whatever it may be.
Right.
But everybody put into that. But I have to say, within this community, we all give back, almost every one of
Oh
us.
my
I
goodness.
never meet
Yes.
somebody, they go to pay me, and I'm like, no. And they're like, what do you mean no? And I'm like, I'm just being directed, no, not today. Like, just
Right.
go take your kids out, go do something, go get your hair done, go do whatever. And that's just part of me, and that's part of who I am. I did a workshop over the weekend where my neighbor was out in the yard, and I said, do you want to come over and join us? And she's like, can my friend come? My friend is coming over. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
sure. But at the end of it, when the workshop was over and she realized people were paying some of them, she was like, oh, I didn't know there was a fee. I go, I didn't tell you there was a fee, so you're not paying. And she's like, what do you
That
mean?
I love
And
it. That's
I said,
what I say
I
too.
did not tell you there was a fee. I invited you. If I wanted you,
Right.
I would have said,
Right.
if you want to come and join us, but pay this amount. I go, you're here for free today. And she was like, oh, people don't expect that. And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have, to me, that's a balance thing. You have
It's totally a balance. Yeah. And
all
I get flowers, I get bushes, and that's an exchange. And that's, showing me that you love me and you respect me and you're grateful for what I have.
very much so. I mean,
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
COVID, when COVID hit, I really was like, what am I going to do with my business? Because it was all in person, other than um, people that had moved out of state that, we did it over the phone. And I was
Right.
either I have to make my business virtual, or my business is going to go under. And what ended up happening was a friend of mine invited me into a private Facebook group that had over 1,000 people in it. And I started realizing like everybody mentally was having a really hard time. This is when we were on lockdown.
Right.
you know, I'm going to start pulling cards in this group for people. And I would just say, does anybody want a card? And like 300 people later, there's all these people. And then it just became like a regular practice for me to do this. And then I said, you know what? I want to start a women's group. And I ended up making a private Facebook page during COVID where it was women that were being supportive of women, where I was like, you know what? I don't want to hear any of the catty back and forth. I'm not going to allow any kind of bashing your partners either. If you come in and you have a problem with your partner, put it out there. Let's look for a solution. But I don't want to have people coming in here going, my husband, my girlfriend, my wife, my this, my that. That's not work. But if you say, I'm really struggling with this in our relationship, what can we do? Well, we kept that group running with, I think it was like 120 women for like over a year and a half through COVID. And I said, not a penny went into it. Was just us
Right.
sharing. And when COVID was finally calming down, it was like, wow, like not a penny. There was no charging, there was nothing. I started doing my business virtually, and I realized, wow, I can actually reach so many more
Oh
people
my
and
goodness. Yes.
across the country. And now I read internationally. So now
Me
I read,
too. Me too. Oh my God.
it,
It's so
it's
much fun.
awesome thing. But then I said, you know what? I think a lot of this comes from all that we give. Like, in other words, during COVID, I had all these people that I was working with their mental health, and it was helping me because I felt like I
Of
need this social,
course. Yeah. Yeah.
need this interaction to be social. And then when I did the women's group, I just ended up having a group of really good, solid women that we were all there for each other, and really some good relationships and connecting people like that never knew each other before this group, that now they're all friends and like they're all connected.
Yeah.
And awesome thing. And it was like, you don't charge for that. And
No.
the reward was, it helped me because it gave me social interaction. It kept me busy too. But also my business just started blossoming and blooming and thriving. And now it's like international. And it was like, you know what? We all get rewarded for what we do in one way or
We
another.
definitely do. We
If
definitely
you're
do.
intentional, right?
But you gotta set your boundaries though too, not be called at midnight, for a prayer or to, they have to respect you too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big thing where, and you become friends with a lot of your
Of
clients,
course. They're all my
trust-
friends. I
if
love
you
each and
trust them,
every one of them. Yeah.
and you have to say sometimes to people, you don't need me to pull a card for you. You don't need me to connect you. You need to face this head on. Like it's not
Right, right. Yeah.
not going to change that situation.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yay. Well, thank you so much, Donna. You
you.
are amazing.
This was a great talk.
Yes, it was. We're almost an hour and 20 minutes.
Wow.
I think this is the longest talk we've had.
Wow.
So much fun.
Important stuff.
So is there anything you want to say out loud?
My biggest thing, I want people to talk about death. I want them to normalize.
Yes, yes.
We're all going to get there, every one of us. And I want people to be less afraid of it, because then you can celebrate with your loved ones at the end of life instead of being so fearful. So that would be my outgoing mantra.
Yes,
Great.
yes, yes.
And I thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, you are so welcome. And if anybody wants to reach out to Donna, don't do it at midnight. Message her. I didn't want to put your phone number on there.
That's okay.
So message her and then she will contact you.
Definitely.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yay. Because, this is on YouTube forever, so I didn't want your phone number blasted on the
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. I am so honored and blessed and grateful that you joined us. And I'm going to put you in the back room.
Okay.
And then I'm going to play my little music because I didn't play it before. I don't know. I just went right into it. And then I'll talk to you in a minute, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey, loves. Thank you so much for watching. I love each and every one of you. You are all amazing. We are all hope. We are all healing. May we all be happy, healthy, wealthy, and free.
This is the moment we've been waiting for. Feel the right in a world of time for sure. Na 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 na. Got.